I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're exploring the deeply personal and thought-provoking journey captured in an amazing book. It is called The Unconditional Standard by June Cox. This powerful memoir shares the author's courageous steps to break free from the expectations of others, particularly within the confines of religious judgment. Through her story, the author invites readers to examine their own beliefs, embrace authenticity, and rediscover the freedom to live by faith without fear. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her powerful book. The links are below this interview. June, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Let's start out with the title, The Unconditional Standard. What does that mean?
Well, in the churches that we went to, the rules that they had, mostly for women, that we couldn't cut our hair, we couldn't wear makeup or jewelry or pants of any kind. And they called all those rules standards. And my personal experience with God showed me that the unconditional standard between he and I is love. No matter what I look like, where I go to church, his standard is unconditional love. And that's why I chose that title. Just
Great. I think it's powerful and it says it all that God's love is unconditional and that should be the standard. And I think that's terrific.
exact.
May I ask you what denomination you were part of when you decided to turn away from this religion?
It was Pentecostal holiness.
Okay.
And they're defined by their rules and their standards. And
Yeah.
so, but we were in that church for 20 years
Starting
before.
when you were a child or starting when?
No, we were adults. We were
Hmm.
adults.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. But you
it's
lost you turned away from the religion, but you didn't turn away from God. You didn't turn away from your faith. And I think that's important, right?
right.
Tell us a little bit about that, what it was like leaving this church and what it was like, you know, loving God, worshiping God, praying to God, and observing your faith on your own terms.
Well, it was very hard to leave because when you've heard all of these sermons about these standards for 20 years, when you go to a different church, it's very, very hard to deprogram your brain into, looking at a woman wearing blue jeans and makeup and jewelry, praising God and stuff. It instantly, that legalistic thought, you know, comes, and I know it's wrong, but it literally took years for me personally to untrain myself from thinking that way. And we go to an Assembly of God church now, and we really like it. And but I had a very specific encounter with God, and it's the preface of my book. So, but it was defining about leaving the church.
Tell us about that encounter.
The first time I was brave enough to go out in public wearing my blue jeans. And I went to Walmart first and just kind of nervous, looking around every corner, making sure I wasn't going to run into a church person. And I didn't. I saw a lady, but when she met eye contact with me, she turned around and walked away. So, but then I thought, well, I'm gonna go to Hobby Lobby. There's a lot of church people that go to Hobby Lobby. So I was taking a risk, but I made it all the way through Hobby Lobby and got back in my car. And I'm very, very, very particular, and I feel very strongly about saying God spoke to me or God told me. I wanted to be 100% convinced. But anyway, I got back in my car and I breathed a sigh of relief. And I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't see any church people in either store. And just immediately, God spoke to me and He said, I saw you and you didn't have anything to be ashamed of. And that was just a big turning point for me. So,
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I can imagine it was wonderful to have that affirmation when wearing jeans was such a threat to your religious community, to
yeah,
hear from God that, no, this is fine, this is okay. I have unconditional love for you. Jeans are
right.
fine. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
And often I went through similar things. I went to Catholic school. And if you were out of uniform, the nuns and the priests would be so mean to you. And often it
Um,
wasn't my fault. I was a kid. My mother didn't want to buy a uniform or something. And I'm like, this isn't religious to treat a child poorly because he can't afford, a certain uniform or something.
right.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of uh, hypocritical people in religion, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely understand. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with judgment or criticism right now within their own faith community?
Prayer, first of all.
Yeah.
And I had, and this was a Pentecostal holiness preacher who gave me this advice, and this is what I would give anybody searching. Because I had all kinds of questions, and I would go to him, and he would counsel me and talk to me. And I disagreed with a lot of, I just didn't see the biblical aspect of some of their standards. And so he told me, he said, what I want you to do is I want you to get your Bible, go to a room by yourself, write down all these things that you question, and go through your Bible over and over until you are convinced of what you believe, and write down what you believe. And he told me, he said, and I want you to stand on that no matter who disagrees with you, even if I disagree with you. And that was powerful because that is exactly what I did.
Hmm.
And it was grounding.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that was good advice, and it helped you define exactly what your boundaries were and what you wanted
Yes.
from your faith, what you wanted from your religion, what you wanted from your relationship with God. And I think that's important. What do you hope readers take away from your book?
Well, it is an autobiography, so they're getting a lot of history of
Mhm.
me and my personality.
Mhm.
And my personality, my person in the book is an evolution because I go through a period of time where I'm away from God, and then I divorce, but then I get saved, and it's a big love story.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
it's
think people will find strength and resilience and determination by reading your story. And like I said, they think they will learn to embrace their religion, their faith, and their relationship with God on their own terms. And I think that's important. Before we leave you, let me ask you a little bit about Assembly of God and that church community. How
mhm.
has it influenced your spiritual journey? What's that move been like? And what have you found there that was lacking in the other experience?
Well, I'm not judged. by how I look when I walk in. It's a freedom
Right.
that you're not going to be judged. And if I have blue jeans on and I raise my hand in worship, I don't feel any condemnation.
Yeah.
And I feel accepted
Yeah.
there.
Amazing. Yeah. Nowhere in the Bible does it say thou shall not wear blue jeans. Right.
I know. I know.
And once you come to terms with that, I think you're better off. And like you said, you were in that community for 20 years. Those words get ingrained in your head. You're basically brainwashed in a way.
Exactly.
And it's tough to break free. I remember all the lessons I learned growing up. I got slapped around by the priests a little bit myself. I was in a tough religion also. I still am part of that religion, but I'm not a kid anymore in school being educated by them.
Right.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any more writing for you? Are you going to pursue your writing career a little bit more now that you've written your autobiography?
Well, I am in the process of revising and republishing a book that my husband's uncle wrote in 1989. It
Wow.
is a history of our hometown of Blair here, and it's pioneer. He had pioneer families, businesses, churches, stories, but that's been 35 years ago.
Hmm.
So what I'm doing is trying to contact as many family descendants that are still here and have them give me an update on their family. And that's going kind of slow. If I had all the knowledge in my head, I'd have the book written.
Yeah.
But I have to wait on other people to give me information, but I'll get there.
Sounds like a wonderful and worthy project. Would love to have you back on the show when that's completed. The name of the
Thank you.
book we've been focusing on today is The Unconditional Standard. It is a powerful memoir that shares the author's courageous steps to break free from the expectations of others, particularly within the religious community and the religious judgment that she faced there. Through her story, the author invites readers to examine their own beliefs, embrace authenticity, and discover and rediscover the freedom to live by faith without fear. June, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you joining me. For the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.